Welcome back to my channel. I'm the Young and Free Retiree. And on this beautiful Saturday, as I was driving down to get on the cruise, driving down to Miami to get on this 7-day cruise, you know your boy about to hop on. I wanted to come on here and talk about something that's kind of been on my mind for quite some time, and something that really affects my culture, and especially someone I feel in my financial position. And it's regarding family. Like a lot of times when family realize that you have money or you seem like you're somewhat financially successful, not rich, but just doing better than most of the family, they have a tendency to look at you as the person that they can always come to borrow money. And for me, that's been the case for quite some time. And not saying that I'm the most financially sound person at all. I'm not saying that whatsoever. But I'm just be real with you. My siblings aren't the most financially savvy individuals. I love them with all my heart. I would never turn my back on them whatsoever because I love them so much. And it's because I have that much love for them that I don't let them borrow money. It's like, I'm so serious. Well, occasionally I let them borrow money, but for the most part, I don't do the borrowing thing. So let's check out this clip.
Another thing that's crazy about getting older is just realizing how many of your family members have poor money management. And it's kind of awkward because you're in this weird phase of your life where you're like an adult, but you're still perceived as a child, really, to people because you're still young. But you know more about money and you have better, financial literacy than some of your older family members. And a lot of the times when you try to talk to them about this situation or like just in general, they get offended, right? And they don't want to hear it, or they're very dismissive because either for them it's just a pride thing, or maybe they are kind of resentful because they didn't know this information when they were younger. And to me it's just like interesting because you could change the dynamic of your family, the position that your family's in, if you just made a few financial changes. And a lot of people just don't want to face it. I don't know, it's just interesting.
So not too long of a clip, but what this young lady is talking about, I can relate to that a lot. And definitely back in my younger years when I first came into the military, because at one point, as I started to make better financial decisions in my late 20s, I started to realize that a lot of my family members, they didn't have the best money management skills. Um, they just didn't. They just seemed more focused on material items. And me, even at growing up, I wasn't so fixated on material stuff. Now, don't get me wrong. When I got in the military and hit them 20s, as a child that didn't have much or didn't have access to money like that, once I started getting a consistent paycheck in the military, yeah, I went out and splurged. So in them early 20s, I was blowing bread like any other 20-year-old. But after like 25, or as I started to hit my mid 20s and late 20s, I started to realize like I wanted something more out of life. I was done. I blew through that little splurge phase real quick. A lot of people, they stay in that phase for a long, long time, pretty much majority of their life, and it's kind of sad. And that's what leads them to a lifetime of working, honestly, and financial destitute. But like this young lady was saying in the clip, as you get older and you start to look around, you realize like a lot of your family members, they really be tricking off a lot of money, and then when they have problems, they come to you because they see that you seem like you're able to stand on your own 2 feet financially, and they have a tendency to always have their hand out. And that's one thing I quickly learned in life. Like, though my heart wanted to give them money, and I did, at some point I started to separate myself from my family. Even my mom, love my mom with all my heart to this day. And all my siblings made a drastic change. Once again, they're not the most savvy financial individuals, but they made a lot of improvement. But early in my military career, as I was my early years in the military, like probably my first 10 years in the military, I didn't really speak to my family so much. I rarely ever came home, mostly because I was tired of seeing people in the same financial positions or just situations that they were in, since high school. And that's including family, friends, and just random people I would see in my small city. And so for me, I just didn't want to come home. And also because I knew once I come home, people always hit you with them stories. Like, they come over and they like, yeah, how you doing? But it's going to lead to something like asking for money. And even my oldest brother, he can vouch for this, because I started to realize he went into service and he wasn't coming home as often. I always wondered why he didn't come home so often. And then as I went into the service and started realizing, like, oh, I see why he don't come home often. And so I kind of followed behind in some of the similar footsteps of my older brother. We didn't go to the same location, but we followed a similar path. But going back to the topic, family, when they see you, man, they will. You got to be careful with family, man. They will bleed you dry if you let them. You have to put a limit. You have to limit how much you're willing to give to people, because usually as a giver, you'll give and give and give. And I love giving. I'm very generous, especially now in retirement at 43. I love spending time with other people. I love helping the less fortunate. I love giving my helping based on my resources, my time, and my energy, and just whatever, my presence. But man, takers, a lot of times they don't have a limit. They'll just continuously have their hand out, and they know they can tug on your heart a little bit to get some money out of you. They'll do it, man. People will do it. And sad to say, family did that to me. I don't know if they did it intentionally, but not all of my siblings, but it was just annoying. And like I said, you would try to educate them, like, yo, I used to be willing to give them the money as long as it was predicated on them listening and trying to adjust their financial position a little bit, better it. But over time, I started realizing, like, it didn't seem like they were making no adjustments whatsoever. It's like they'll tell you, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and then you don't see no changes whatsoever. Next year, you see them in the same financial position, or next month, you see them in the same financial position. Phone getting turned off, the rent ain't paid, lights about to get turned off. Majority of them sob stories, especially in the black community in our culture. Boy, you get all kind of stories, man. And it wore on me to the point where I really started to distance myself from my family. And I started to realize a lot of other black people in the military, I was starting to hear the same stories. Like, they didn't want to go home on leave. Nobody wanted to burn their leave and go back to the States or go back to their home of record and see their family or siblings, unless it was a dire emergency. And it was mainly because we all dealt with the same issues. It was like, nobody, you're going to travel from overseas back to a small city or town or wherever. You're going to travel, over 1,000 miles. And then when you get there, you don't even see anybody come home to see you. Everybody asks, like, oh, why can't you come around the corner and come see me? Or why can't you come to my house? Yo, I just traveled, like, took a 12-hour flight, and I'm home, and you can't even drive around the corner and come see me, but you can pick up the phone and ask for money? Yeah, that really made me. I learned early, like within the first year or two, I stopped coming home. Like, my mama would tell you, one time I drove through my hometown, stopped and gassed up, and kept going. I didn't even stop. I ain't go to my mama's house. I ain't go to my aunt. I ain't go to nobody's house. And my mama only knew because she's such everybody in town knows my mom. She's a social butterfly. That's where I get it from. But somebody told her, she like, yo, I seen your son at the gas station. And she like, oh, really? So that she felt the type of way about that. But that comes in like, I don't want to come home and spend my time off and either don't see the people that I want to see or see anybody for that matter. And this when I was young. Now I'm cool with it. I don't care if I don't see nobody when I go home. As long as I see my mama or whoever want to come by, I'm good with that. But like it used to be when I was younger, early in the military career, I was I was like, man, why am I traveling, burning this time and this money to come back home, and I'm bored? Like there's nobody trying to do nothing. Everybody's broke. Ain't nobody trying to go out and do nothing. Ain't nobody got no money to do nothing. Everybody's looking at you to foot the bill without saying it. Whenever you go do something from it, and of course, you love your siblings. You want to go do stuff for them, but man, after a while, you get tired of hearing that record, man, and going through the same motions over and over. So after about probably, I would say, like a few years in the military, I just stopped coming home, and I didn't feel bad at all about it. And it kind of put a big gap between my mother and I's relationship and my siblings because, like I said, I was stationed overseas a lot of my career. So it wasn't like they could just hop in the car and come see me. No, they couldn't pick up the phone and call me either because that was a whole nother country. And we talking about back in the day when we ain't had no social media like that really. So it was difficult for people to get in contact. One time my mama had to call Red Cross, who contacted my first sergeant, to get in contact with me, and he told me like, "Yeah, you got to call your mama. She calling Red Cross." And my mama do stuff like that. I called her, but the main reason that separation came because, man, it was just always somebody had their hand out, or you're gonna get hit with a sob story, and people were gonna be looking at you as their golden ticket. And for me, it got old real quick, and to the point where, yeah, I wasn't coming home no more. I would still occasionally call, but no, I wasn't making that trip. I wasn't blowing that bread like that to spend on that. When I started putting that money in other places, investing, started learning about the stock market, started investing in my TSP, and I'm so glad that I did. And every time things work for the better sometimes. Um, and to me, that was a blessing in disguise. Like, maybe that's what helped prompted me to be in the position that I'm in now, that maybe that's the way God had it planned out for me, is to help motivate me to become more financially savvy and be more focused on investing and put money away. That this I needed to separate myself from family, because if I didn't, man, I had to separate myself financially from family, not emotionally. Because like I said, I still try to come home on Christmas or a birthday or two or whatever, but financially I wasn't in that mode to be sending $20 here and there or sending checks home, and then like I was not, because I started to realize also, man, you're not really helping them. All you're doing is enabling their bad financial habits and behavior. When you do that, you think you're helping them, but you're just bailing them out, and you're just continuously allowing them to do what they're doing. Like, you're hurting them. It's as if they're down in a hole and you gave them a shovel to get, a shovel and a ladder, and they just use the shovel to continue to dig themselves deeper into a hole. And you would think by you giving them the ladder, they would have used the ladder to climb out of the hole. Nope, they did not. They will push that ladder to the side and keep digging deeper and deeper in that hole. And like I said, I love my family. I don't know if that was something that they started realizing, like, man, he's not coming home no more. He ain't really talking to us no more. Like, yeah, that was a reason. Like, you get tired of being bombarded with that, let me borrow this money, or you got $5. My uncles were even doing it, aunties and stuff like that. Like, and I have a fairly large fam back home. My mama had like 5 or 6 siblings. I got 6 siblings, 5 or 6 siblings, and that's not even counting the ones my dad got. So it was just constantly a lot of cousins. I'm from the South, so it was a lot of people. And you be want to see people when you go home, but man, at some point they're gonna hit you with that story like, hey man, can I borrow 20? 20 may not sound like a lot to you, but it's a lot when you multiply by like 10 or 20 people asking for $20. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not giving up them 20. I'd rather throw that money in an account and invest it or somewhere, or put it to the side for my little one. But that's all, man. Like, you just gotta be careful with family. Family will bring you down, like they really will, and it's sad. But you have to realize that, like, some of them are trying to help themselves, but a lot of them, I don't think they were. And it was just by the grace of God that they started to actually become, more financially savvy as they got older. But before that, that was not the case. It'll be one out of few that get it financially, and the rest are just, you know, trying to use you as a stepladder to just bail them out, per se.